Good morning and welcome back to Margin. This morning we're going to talk about how to not buy cars off emotion. So this is part one of a two-part series, so let's jump right into it. So much of the battle of not buying a car off of emotion comes down to making sure to have a plan. Much like we've talked about in past episodes around having a plan to spend, having a budget in place that actually tells your money where to go, or even having a vision that you set forth that you adjust your path according to. Having a plan in place when you go to buy a vehicle will prevent you from buying the wrong vehicle, or buying a vehicle with the wrong options, or buying a vehicle that ends up needing to be shortly thereafter traded in for something else because you got the wrong thing or doesn't fit your lifestyle accordingly. So in order to accomplish this, follow these 7 steps. So step number 1 comes down to your seasonality, understanding where you're at from a seasonality standpoint. So everyone is in a season of some kind. Everyone is in a season of life. And so therefore, knowing what that season is, whether you are single and you like to get out and adventure, or you're a city dweller, or if you are married and you like to go on road trips, or if you have a family and you need to basically, cart the family around accordingly. So understanding seasonality, understanding the needs that you have right now are extremely important to making sure that you only buy the vehicle that actually fits the seasonality that you're in, the needs that you have right now. So with this, you will want to look at what your needs are versus what your wants are. Looking at the seasonality and the location that you live in, and making sure that you buy a vehicle that is capable enough to deal with the seasons of your climate that you live in. So if you live in a place that gets a lot of snow, keeping that in mind and making sure not to buy a vehicle that would not be able to handle the winters. So the second component comes down to safety. And with safety, it's important to realize that the auto industry is highly competitive. However, not all vehicles are created equally. So the resource I would encourage you to use for this is iihs.org. So if you are near a computer and can utilize that resource, I would like to compare the vehicle that we looked at earlier in this series, and that was the 2019 Ford F-150. So utilizing this site in order to basically find out if that vehicle is safe, if that vehicle has a good rating, and from that point, being able to look at whether that vehicle that you're comparing measures up to others accordingly. And so with that, we're looking again at the Ford F-150 crew cab pickup. So that crew cab pickup, if you look at the website specifically, it allows you to select the year. So different years will have different crash test ratings, and you'll want to look at them accordingly as the technology advances and as the vehicles hopefully get better and safer. And so with that, we're looking at a 2019 Ford F-150 crew cab. So with the 2019 vehicle specifically, as you're looking at the crash worthiness of that, you're looking at the fact that it has a scale. So the key is it basically shows good all the way down to poor. And so good is green, acceptable is yellow, marginal is orange, and poor is red. And so under the Ford F-150, you'll find that the crash worthiness, it got a good or a top rating in all of the main categories. So that would be the roof strength in the event of a rollover. That would be the side impact, or that would be, the other aspects of that crash. Now, beyond that, they look at crash avoidance and mitigation. In particularly, the headlights on this vehicle were rated poor. And so you can see how the ratings apply accordingly. And so I would encourage you to look at whatever vehicle it is and making sure that vehicle does measure up based on the safety needs of you, your spouse, and your family accordingly. So the third component comes down to options. Looking at options specifically when it comes to making sure not to make an emotional decision. So in avoiding making an emotional decision, you'll want to find out what are those options that really do matter to me. Now, I would encourage you not to buy a stripped down version of a vehicle like a Ford F-150. I know that certain job sites don't need anything more than the rubber or cloth seats with the roll-up windows, but I would also look at not buying something that is at the other end of the spectrum, where it's a vehicle that maybe has massage seats and everything else, but it's something that will have a deeper and faster depreciation curve based on bringing it to an equilibrium with the other vehicles that people would be comparing when buying that vehicle specifically. So when you're looking at options specifically, one thing to keep in mind is the fact that there may be a luxury counterpart to a brand. So for example, you may have Honda, which is the entry-level version, but then Acura is the luxury version. You may have Toyota as the entry-level version, and then have Lexus as the luxury brand. Now, a lot of different vehicles, a lot of different vehicle companies have different levels of vehicles within their portfolio. So for example, you may be looking at the widely popular Toyota 4Runner platform. So if you're looking at a brand new Toyota 4Runner and there's every option from SR5 all the way up to limited for those vehicles, but if you're looking at the top tier version after all of the options have been added on, and you're looking at a nightshade edition of the limited model, that vehicle is about $1,500 difference between that and a Lexus GX460. So that GX460, you can get a lower version of that GX460 and still have the baseline options that you would have at that top end version of that 4Runner. Now, something to keep in mind is both of these have excellent resale value. And so it may just be a personal preference. You may not want the nameplate because of your neighbors and their preconceived notions and whatnot of driving a Lexus versus a Toyota. But I've owned both vehicles, and they're both uniquely different, but they both have great traits to them. And so what I would find is you have personal preference that goes into each vehicle that you're looking at, and you may prefer the look of the GX460 over the 4Runner or vice versa. But being mindful of if a vehicle is neck to neck with another vehicle, and if you're buying the top end of a certain vehicle and you can get its luxury counterpart for around the same price with the same options, it may be something worth considering, being that top version of that entry-level brand may depreciate faster than a lower version of the luxury brand. If this information is helpful to you, please do like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you're reminded to come back on a daily basis and improve in managing your personal finances. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your day. I'll see you back here tomorrow.